Guys, without further ado, just want to introduce Mr. Trevor McDowell, our CEO of Watershed Carwash. Trevor, how are you today?
Doing great, thanks. Great to be here and see all of you.
Dude, Trevor, for a second, think about like this phone call. We're using Zoom, which is like the coolest thing ever. But like, look at all these faces. Look at Oklahoma. There's a baby on the call. Sarah has a baby on the call. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
you're about to
awesome.
teach, you're about to teach a youngin about gratitude. And what a perfect age. But it's always special to see these calls and like I don't know, as a CEO, what do you think about it? There's almost 40, 50 people on this call. How do you feel?
Yeah, very excited and thankful that you guys want to be here and get on the call and hear me rattle off some stuff for a few minutes. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. So
Thankful for everybody.
just to tee you up a little bit. So once again, Trevor has been a guy in my life that has always spoken truth at all costs. Like, I mean, never has been a time where he's minced the truth with me, where he's always just been a truthful guy, where I've looked to for wisdom all the time, whether it's our children, and I've gotten parenting advice from Trevor, I've gotten work advice from Trevor. And so I'm excited for you guys to listen in. What a great mentor he is, and a wealth of knowledge. And so he's going to be teaching us on gratitude today, and that is like one of my absolute favorites. So I'm excited, Trevor. Thank you so much for taking on a big value of ours. It's not like you took on, hustle. I mean, no shade at Craig McDowell, but hustle's an easy one, you know what I'm saying? But gratitude is one of those ones where that's a biggie. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for teaching. So without further ado, go for it.
You bet. Thanks, Dan. Justin. Guys, Shedheads, great to be with you. Appreciate every one of you. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about gratitude. And this one is near and dear to my heart. And I know when we were trying to decide which values we were going to have in our cultural concepts, and we, as a leadership team, did a bunch of vote, and we took the top three. And this one would have been my number one for sure, would be gratitude. I think actually, all of our values and our vision flow from gratitude, where gratitude is a key component. Think about it. Generosity. Can a person be generous if they don't have gratitude in their life? I think it's next to impossible. Or serving people, right? I think we all have seen someone act falsely when they're serving someone, and it's because of their attitude, right? If they don't have that attitude of gratitude, people will see right through it. And then obviously all of them, I think, just, like Craig, Dan said, hustling, and just everything flows from gratitude. I think gratitude is one of the most important attitudes that will shape every aspect of our life. One thing I would say is that everything in life is a gift. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that before, but I'd suggest to you that everything in our life is a gift from above. Think about, you didn't decide where you were born. You didn't decide your abilities, your intellect. You didn't choose your parents or your siblings, and even your friends, right? Because even though you may decide who you want to be your friend, they also have to decide that they want to be your friend. So all these things that come into our life, we have no input in them whatsoever, and they're all given as a gift. I think it's easy to fall in the attitude that maybe some of those things weren't a gift and you were dealt a bad hand, but I would suggest you were dealt a perfect hand, because a lot of those negative things in life mold, and they can be used to mold and shape us in a very, very positive manner. And I'll talk to you about a few illustrations later on. I am going to talk about a couple of Bible verses that I think deal with gratitude and have really impacted my life. And one of them, I think more than any other verse, it's in Philippians chapter 4. And I'm just going to read verses 6 and 7 for you. But it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." And when I was a young man, I was a very anxious guy. I would easily go to anxiety and worry in life, and worry about the future, worry about how people viewed me. And it's just a place where I constantly lived. And then a friend of mine pointed out this passage to me in the Bible. And he made the key point is that if you're anxious about something, bring it to God in prayer, but also you have to do it with thanksgiving, because that part says, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So he says, make sure that when you're doing it, you thank God for everything he has in your life, and even thank him for the whatever issue or circumstance is causing anxiety. And if you do that, then you're going to have peace. And so I started trying this every time I would get anxious, I would go through this process of stopping, getting into prayer, and giving thanks for my situation. And it was absolutely life transforming, because every time I did that, the anxiety would go away. And there's something, I don't know what it is, but there's something about giving thanks that can remove anxiety. And I don't live in anxiety anymore because of this promise in the scriptures that you can apply to your life and remove the anxiety. One thing I realized is that peace doesn't come with the changing of our circumstances, but it comes when we change how we view our circumstances. Does that make sense? I'm going to say it one more time. Peace does not come.
Say that one more time. That was good.
Peace does not come with the changing of our circumstances, but with how we view our circumstances. And being thankful can change how we view our circumstances. Interesting. And so I'd known that verse for a few years, and then I came across another verse. And it was fascinating because that one in Philippians says that when you give thanks, your heart and your mind will be guarded. And that is our intellect and our emotions. So if we have thankfulness, gratitude in our hearts, our emotions and our intellect will be guarded. They'll be guarded from going down the wrong path, thinking the wrong thoughts, feeling the bad emotions. And I came across this verse in Romans chapter 1, verse 21. And this is the actually flip side of Philippians. I realize it's the negative view. And it says, for even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So it's interesting, right? This is this passage in Romans talks about the corruption of the world we live in, and we have so much bad things, obviously we live in a world that just has so much negative, and there's a lot of evil. And so the writer is talking about how it kind of gets started. And this verse talks about how it gets started. It really is with people having ingratitude in their hearts. And what happens, he says, they become futile in their speculations, right? So their mind is not thinking correctly, and their foolish heart is darkened. Then their emotions start going down the wrong paths as well. So I was just fascinated how gratitude is involved in both of those, and it affects our mind and our mind and our heart. As I thought about it, ingratitude is a relationship killer. So you see people who will get married, right, and love the socks off of one another and just always want to be around one another. And then eventually that marriage, several years down the road, can end up in divorce. And you say, how does that happen? How do two people who love each other so much end up getting divorced one day? And I would suggest probably one of the main reasons is because seeds of ingratitude start to infect their thinking. So a guy says, gosh, that little quirk my wife had when we were dating is really starting to annoy me. And man, she just doesn't do all the nice things she used to do for me, right? And we start to we can go down that path of ingratitude. And I remember I was talking to my friend one day, and he said, the next time your wife annoys you, stop and start thinking about all the things you're thankful for her. And so it probably was only a couple of days later, and my wife and we were young. I think we had one child at the time, and we're in the kitchen, and I can't even tell you today what it was, but she said something and she left the kitchen, and I was so mad at her, and I wanted to scream. I was so angry. And then I stopped, and I just started thinking about all the things I was thankful for. I was thankful for how she made dinner every night, for how she always had the house just looking so nice. And I started just going through the list of all the things I was thankful for her. And I'm telling you, it was amazing. My anger just like dissipated like air going out of a balloon. And all of a sudden, I was not angry at all any longer. And that has served me well through the years to always, when someone starts doing something to annoy me or make me angry, if I can stop and start giving thanks, my attitude towards them changes immediately. I just had the other day, so it was my birthday last week, and there's a family member of mine that has always been so good about calling me and wishing me a happy birthday, to the point where I had the illegitimate expectation that they should be calling me. And this year they didn't call me. And as I was going through preparing for this gratitude talk, I realized seeds of ingratitude were circling in my brain. And I stopped and I just started giving thanks for this family member. And all of a sudden, it just readjusted my attitude and got me thinking clearly again.
Hey, Trevor.
Yes.
All right. I did not call you on your birthday.
It wasn't you, Dan. That's why I said family member. So everyone here, besides my brothers, can feel okay about that.
Okay. I literally like turned my head to William. I was like, I hope he's not talking about me.
So, I'm not talking about you.
Trevor, I love you and happy birthday.
Hey, I wasn't trying to bring focus to my birthday, just the situation. But thank you, Dan.
I'll send you a gift. No problem. It's coming in the mail.
Yeah. Also, sometimes gratitude can be a sacrifice. And this can come in the area of sometimes people do treat us wrongly, and they say things to hurt us. And they can do mean and evil things, right? And let me suggest to you that if you can even be thankful for those situations and those people, it is, again, going to protect you, and it's going to bless you to have a different attitude towards that. And it is a sacrifice, right? It's not easy. It's painful, but it will also protect you and guard your heart and your mind. I remember several years ago, gosh, it's probably going on 20 years now. My brothers were in a gas station business, and their ex-partner decided to sue them. And I really believe one reason why the ex-partner decided to sue them was a guy he hung out with. And this guy was I just say he was a real evil guy. He was a troublemaker. He was always trying to divide people so that he could gain an advantage and hopefully profit from it. And so my brothers are going through this lawsuit, and I am so mad at this guy. That has kind of the one that stirred the pot, and I think, got it started. And again, I'm sharing with that same guy who has been a big impact in my life. Just, I'm just talking about, this scumbag, suing my brothers. And I start just talking about the situation, not even really thinking twice about it. And he said to me, Trevor, have you given thanks for that guy being in your brother's life? I'm like, of course not. Of course I haven't done that. That's crazy. This guy's a jerk. He's evil. He said, give it a shot. Start giving thanks for him, and let's see what happens. So, angrily, I walked away thinking, this guy, this is stupid. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so over the course of several weeks, I started giving thanks for this gentleman. And it was amazing. Again, the anger I had towards this guy dissipated. And I even started praying for God to bless him. And that was not an easy thing to do. I didn't want to do it, but it's interesting. What happened was it changed me, and it gave me, again, a new perspective. And I had bitterness towards this guy. And I think a great definition of bitterness is drinking poison and expecting it to hurt the other person. And all of us, I think it's easy, and it can come so subtly, and we don't even realize it till it's grabbed a hold of us. But bitterness, again, is a relationship killer. But the problem is It doesn't affect the person we're bitter towards is not affected. It's me being affected, right? It's poison that was only consuming me and nobody else. And so the antidote again is gratitude. It's just starting to give thanks. And maybe right, some of the things these people have done have hurt you and it doesn't make sense, but I'm telling you, it's healing to your soul to be able to give thanks for circumstances. And really, what I saw the outcome of this lawsuit my brothers went through is they really became great operators, because they realized even though they were not guilty of some of the things they were being accused of, they had done some things sloppily and hadn't taken care of records and books like they should have, so that they could have probably made this thing go away a lot quicker. So even though it was a negative circumstance and we were dealing with destructive people, it was good for Craig and Mark. They were much better businessmen as a result of going through that lawsuit. And actually, they ended up winning it too. So they were vindicated at the end of the day. So if you have an attitude of gratitude, people are going to notice it. It's just going to flow out of you. I had two grandparents that I've obviously since passed away. And one of my grandparents, my grandfather was a dentist, pretty successful guy, probably one of the most successful guys in a small community where my mom grew up with her family. But he was a guy that was just unhappy with life and didn't seem to have a lot of gratitude in his heart. And he was not a very pleasant guy to be around. And although I loved him, he was my grandfather, he would not be my first choice to be hanging out with him. And, as people get older, if they carry that attitude of ingratitude, they're just not fun people to be around. And then in contrast was my other grandfather, my dad's father. And this guy was very poor. He was a farmer his entire life, and probably not the most successful farmer you ever met in your life. But I'm telling you, this guy was a joy to be around. And he was grateful for just the small things he had in life. He was grateful for his family. I never heard this guy ever say anything negative about anyone or anything. He was just so positive, and he was a joy to be around. And I look forward to spending time with him. And again, as I think we age and get older, depending on which attitude we're going to carry with us, we're either going to be very attractive to others or very unattractive to others. And I think I would tell you that I would think that both grandfathers didn't think about it a lot, but that was just the attitude they carried, if that makes sense. So having an attitude of gratitude is going to affect your work environment in a mighty way. And to have healthy relationships, be thankful, and your work environment will be better. And obviously, we're even going to have coworkers that are sometimes not the easiest to be around. But if you can be thankful for them and look how to be a positive impact in your life, even though maybe you can't have all control on how they view you, if you view them in a correct manner, your work environment is going to be a great environment to be in. And not fellow employees are going to notice it, and also our customers. And guys, honestly, I just have to say, you all do such a good job. And one of the main reasons for the success of our company is the great attitudes and the great culture that you guys have cultivated. And I'm just so thankful for you and all the great work you do. But if, when those little seeds start coming in, get rid of them by giving thanks and having an attitude of gratitude. My kids always get sick of me saying attitude of gratitude, but I pound it into them because it is foundational to a healthy life and a healthy spirit. I think that's all I got.
Hey, Trev, I just want to lead off with questions. Everybody, I hope that provoked some questions or at least some thoughts that you'd like to reflect on. But I'm going to ask you a question that kind of stood out to me. Trevor, how could something... It's easy to be grateful for a sunny day, right? And then it's really easy to be pissed off when the weather sucks and we're losing hours and things like that, right? But like, how would you encourage us to take the negative things of life and then shift it to positive. Like that's a very not countercultural.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm listening to Fox News all the time, but like that's a very countercultural idea. Is like, how do you switch something that's negative, or really in your mind? But how do you make it? How do you put gratitude to it? It's very difficult to put my mind around that.
It's a good, yeah. I think, Dan, it's not an event, but it's a process. So let me give you another. I'll give you another illustration of a friend of mine who he grew up with an alcoholic father that abused him, and he hated his father for what he had done to him. And then when he got older, I think he was probably in his late 30s, early 40s, he realized that his anger and hatred towards his father had really affected him, and really was affecting how he was treating his son, because he told me a lot of his son's characteristics he saw his father, and so he would just get so mad at his son. And so he realized he had to do something about that. And he didn't want to give thanks for his father, but he started to. And I remember he kind of said a prayer to God. He said, God, I don't love my father. I hate him, but I'm going to start giving thanks for him every single day until I believe what I'm saying. And so he would tell you when he started giving thanks for his father, he didn't believe it. But he said over several months, he realized one day when he was giving thanks for his father, he actually meant it in his soul. And he said that helped repair his other relationships. So it's fascinating how our negative relationships, if we let them get a hold of us, they will affect other relationships, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So that sacrifice, I don't think it's like an immediate give thanks for that person and all will be well. But I think if we commit to it and we are patient, that eventually over time, you're going to see an attitude change and a heart change.
Trevor, that's profound when you think about it as a process and not an event. Because the question I lobbed up to you was it's like the rainbow coming out, and like it's like this perfect moment, like now it's better because now I'm grateful for this crappy weather day, whatever the case may be, or I'm grateful for this hard relationship. You're right, it's not just a moment, and that's where we probably give up on gratitude, because it's like, no, this relationship still is difficult, and it's a thorn in my side. I'm still going to be upset about it. But really what you're saying, it's like the softening of the heart to be focused on gratitude, and then eventually you're like, oh wait, it's really happening. That isn't a thorn in my side anymore.
It's like a hard ground that's been baked for years, right? It's going to take time to break it up and cultivate it and soften it. It's not an overnight deal. It takes time.
That's really powerful. It's a process, not an event. It's really cool.
No, I love that. I think for me, it's a lot of the times for gratitude is trying to see the good and be grateful for the good in those circumstances. But sometimes you don't see that, right? And I think what you're explaining is that even to be grateful for the bad, that doesn't make sense to me, or at least before.
No,
but it does.
It's counterintuitive. And I remember talking to a guy who was a Marine, and he said, when you're in battle and you're being fired upon, and if you want to stay alive, you got to run towards the fire. And that makes no sense, right? You want to turn around and run away. But if you turn around and run away, if you turn around and run away, you're going to get shot in the back and get killed. But if you go at the fire, you have a chance of surviving. So same way with giving thanks in negative circumstances. It's counterintuitive. Our brain says that doesn't make sense, but trust me, if you do it, you'll see the results and the fruit of it.
Love that. And create the habit to do that, the muscle memory.
It is, yeah. It's a habit that you got to create over time.
It's the habit, but it's also understanding the purpose of it too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the hope of that bigger picture of forgiveness or gratitude, or those things that actually make you see the point in doing it. Because someone's mother dying, or whatever it might be, some tragedy in your life, it's hard to just say, hey, you should be grateful for that moment. That's hard to do, but it's the posture of being grateful for what days you had with your mother, or what days what fruit to come from it. So it's such a heart position, and it's it's also such a difficult one to find in the hardest of moments of your life. And so
Yep.
it's not an easy value to be like, because like that'd be really difficult to do. That's a hard advice to give to someone. Be grateful for that. It's like my mom just died. Like, whatever the case is, I know that's a big
Yeah.
extreme, but like you get the
But like
point.
say, you could be grateful for all the time you had with her through the years, right?
Yeah.
And there's like the situation may be tough, but start thinking about all the things you can be thankful for during the situation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's good.
Hey, I had a question, Trevor. Well, you said that you were stuck in a season of anxiety. Was there anything that sparked that season?
Stephen, mine was more of just, I think, my personality, and as I got older, not being able to control circumstances and wanting to control them. And I really had the thinking that if I could just control all my circumstances, I'll have peace. And then, I'm anxious all the time because I have no control over my circumstances. And that's where I kind of learned that, no, it's the changing of my attitude in the midst of those circumstances rather than changing my circumstances.
Thanks. That's what I needed. Appreciate it.
And one powerful thing I learned in that too is I can't control what other people think of me. All I can do is I can treat people the right way. If I screw up, I can apologize, but because I apologize doesn't mean that the relationship's going to be repaired all of a sudden. But as long as I do what I'm responsible for, I can't worry about what other people are thinking about me. And that was very freeing for me when I stopped trying to have control over that.
Amen. You got Stephen clapping. You didn't see it. But
I'm excited. I love it.
Hey, once again, I think that this is one of my favorite topics. I think that the breakdown of attitude and then also gratitude and like it being like an active choice is just such an interesting conversation that I think I could talk about all day. But Trevor, thank you for downloading what it's looked like in your life. Thank you for sharing bits of your faith of what that looks like. And for some of us in the room that you might not have faith in Christ, and thank you for Trevor for opening up and just sharing it. And that might not be the same for everybody on this call, but Trevor, thank you for opening up. And once again, it was powerful, and I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Great to be with you, and I hope to see you on site in the near future.